I had been conquering Willow for 23 years, before she finally agreed to marry me, but on our wedding day, her dream guy, Makoto, showed up to crash the ceremony. Makoto said, "Willow, you won the bet. I'm divorcing her, don't go through with this wedding." I begged Willow not to leave, but she turned around and walked away without hesitation. And then, the system announced, "Conquest failed, the heroine will be erased." I was completely dumbfounded. Wasn't I the one who died? The next second, Willow died in Makoto's arms. Chapter 1. Before the wedding, I once asked Willow, half joking, half testing, I said, "If Makoto showed up to steal you away on our wedding day, would you go with him?" Willow lowered her eyes and smiled softly. "That's impossible, he won't come." Her voice carried a hint of grievance. As if she wasn't convincing me, but trying to convince herself, unwilling to let it go. I pressed on. What if he really did come? A flicker of anticipation flashed across her face. But then she slipped back into her usual gentle tone and said playfully, "Honey, we're getting married soon. Why are you thinking about silly stuff like that?" She knew. Every time she acted cute, I would surrender without a fight. But this time, I didn't fall silent like she expected. I pleaded, "Willow, please, no matter what happens at the wedding, can we just go through with it?" Willow frowned and said, "George, can you stop? Makoto is already married. He's not coming to crash anything. Got it?" Chapter 2. I didn't want to be this pathetic either, but I wanted to stay alive, because I'm a conqueror. My first mission was to pursue Willow and make her marry me. Honestly, it wasn't a hard task. She didn't have to fall in love with me. As long as she married me before she turned 28, the mission would be complete. To fulfill the mission, I transmigrated when Willow was only 5. At that time, she was just the daughter of a servant, living in the basement of the Ito family's house. To stay close to her, I had the system assign me the identity of another servant's son, so I grew up with her, sharing every stage of her youth. We studied together every morning at 5 a.m., competed with each other, and encouraged one another. We wore 10 yuan clothes and ate 50-cent skewers. We were poor, but we were never ashamed, because we were each other's pride. At 20, we both got accepted into the best university in the country with top scores. The day we received our admission letters, the sunset hung low on the horizon. Warm light bathed the schoolyard. Willow sat beside me, her face flushed, and leaned her head on my shoulder. She said, "George, I'm so glad you exist in this world." Chapter 3. Back then, I was also grateful that the one I was conquering was such a lively and optimistic girl. But everything changed when Makoto returned from abroad. His father donated an entire building to our university. And just like that, Makoto became our classmate. He had money, charm, and that effortlessly cool vibe. The classic tall, rich, and handsome golden boy. He caused a stir the moment he arrived, making girls scream in excitement. But among the many who adored Makoto, Willow, the campus goddess, wasn't one of them. So, on his first day at school, Makoto set his sights on Willow. If Willow was a block of ice, then Makoto was a blazing fire. It was as if he was determined to melt her no matter what. At that time, Willow hated him. To her, he was just a spoiled playboy with no clue what real hardship meant. She told Makoto more than once that the person she liked was me, that we were bound for life and inseparable. But a rich kid like Makoto didn't care. He bulldozed ahead like a stubborn bull, slowly plowing his way into Willow's heart. Chapter 4. From then on, Makoto started brainwashing Willow every single day. He kept saying what she and I had wasn't love, just friendship. "You and George are just used to each other's presence," he told her. "You're childhood friends. Real love is about desire and longing. Holding his hand probably feels like holding your own left hand with your right." I tried to stop it, but after over a decade of being together, Willow and I had reached a level of silent understanding, a bond so stable it barely made waves anymore. The more I tried to prove Makoto wrong, the more it felt like I was proving him right. Still, neither Willow nor I had the heart to break the illusion. Eventually, Makoto couldn't hold back. At the school's anniversary celebration, he confessed to a girl in front of everyone, then kissed her without warning. That moment, the volcano inside Willow finally erupted. She bit her lip and stayed silent, but her eyes betrayed the storm of emotions inside. That night, I saw them passionately kissing under the dormitory building. Makoto was devouring her lips like a man starved. He had finally gotten what he wanted, and I went back to just being Willow's friend. Chapter 5. Later, Makoto took Willow back to the Ito family estate. It was the first time I saw the elegant Ito patriarch lose his temper, and the first time I saw self-doubt in Willow's eyes. Ito's father's objections didn't drive them apart. If anything, they fell even deeper in love. Ito's father immediately froze Makoto's card because of this. Within just a month, Willow burned through all the savings she had earned from part-time jobs. She not only borrowed money from me several times, but even did something she'd never done before. She asked her mother for nearly 20,000 yuan. You have to understand, Willow and I had been supporting ourselves with scholarships since high school. Her mother even called me privately, worried, asking if something had happened to Willow. I could only reassure her, telling her Willow had signed up for a language course and needed some money. But I knew the truth. All this chaos was just because Makoto wanted to keep up appearances. When they finally broke up, it wasn't pretty. Makoto didn't understand. Why was Willow so upset over him treating his friends to a 20,000 yuan dinner? After all, he used to down 20,000 yuan bottles of wine without blinking. Willow pressed her lips together and said nothing. But I knew. She didn't break up with him because she stopped loving him. She broke up with him because she felt like she didn't deserve him. Chapter 6. 5 years later, the mighty Ito family was showing signs of collapse. Meanwhile, the tech company Willow and I had founded was starting to make a name for itself. Rumors spread that the Ito family was looking for a marriage alliance. Willow, full of hope, dressed carefully and went to see Makoto. The result, of course, was predictable. Even if the Ito family was a sinking ship, it was still out of her reach. They weren't a traditional aristocratic family, but they were desperate to cling to real power by marrying into an old money clan. So in the end, Makoto married the heiress of the Kim family. Willow started hitting the clubs and drowning herself in alcohol, crying herself to sleep every night. I handled company matters alone during the day, and picked her up from bars every night. Every time she got drunk, her flushed cheeks reminded me of the girl under the sunset that day, and my heart ached. Back then, she must have truly thought having me in her life was a good thing. Chapter 7. 2 months before Willow's 28th birthday, I had already given up hope on completing my mission. Rumors said that Makoto's marriage to the Kim heiress was falling apart. Divorce was imminent. I had said goodbye to my mother and was ready to travel the world. Then Willow called me. She asked if I still liked her, and whether I was willing to marry her. After all these years of waiting, finally getting what I wanted. Of course I was happy, but I couldn't tell if it was because I'd survive, or because I'd be with her. Before the wedding, I confirmed with her over and over. Did she truly want to marry me? She nodded each time, but when I asked about Makoto, she couldn't even lie. Oddly enough, I found I didn't care that much anymore. As long as the wedding went through, I would complete the mission. Chapter 8. Throughout the ceremony, I was on edge, constantly afraid something would go wrong. Willow seemed distracted, like she was waiting for someone. Sure enough, just as we were about to exchange rings, Makoto showed up. It felt like a butcher's blade had finally come down, and bizarrely, I felt a sliver of relief. Makoto said, "Willow, you won the bet. I'm divorcing her. Don't go through with this wedding." To survive, I made one last desperate move. I grabbed Willow by the wrist. I said, "Willow, please don't go. Did you forget what you promised me before?" I was so close, just one step away from living. Willow looked at me with guilt all over her face, but still pulled her hand away and walked toward her dream guy, Makoto. She looked pitiful as she said, "I'm sorry, George. Honestly, this wedding only happened because Makoto said he didn't deserve me since it'd be his second marriage. So I got mad and asked you. I figured, if I became someone who had also been married before, maybe Makoto wouldn't feel so ashamed. And when I thought about who could help me do that, you, my best friend, were the only one who came to mind." I stared coldly at the woman I had conquered for 23 years. I didn't want to say another word. I said, "System, I give up on the mission." The system asked, "Confirm." I replied, "Confirm." The system said, "Conquest failed. The heroine will now be erased." What? I was stunned. Wasn't I supposed to be the one who dies? Chapter 9. The moment I heard the system's prompt, my mind went completely blank. Before I could even react, Willow's pupils lost focus and she collapsed into Makoto's arms. But Makoto didn't realize Willow was already dead. He hugged her tightly like a victorious rooster, his voice full of triumph as he declared, "Willow, I knew it. As long as I turned back, you'd still be waiting right here for me." As he said that, he leaned in to kiss her, but his dark eyes locked onto mine. Through the back of Willow's head, full of disdain and provocation, he was gloating. To him, Willow had always been a simp for him, and I was just a simp for Willow. 4 years, he looked down on me with a natural sense of superiority. "But Makoto, the girl you're kissing right now is a corpse." Chapter 10. Down below the altar, the only table of guests erupted in cheers and applause. Someone even popped the confetti they had prepared in advance. Maybe Willow had already guessed that Makoto would crash the wedding. Considering his married status, she only invited a few of her closest girlfriends, all of whom knew the messy history between her and Makoto. As for me, afraid something would go wrong during the ceremony, and even more afraid my mother might witness me die at my own wedding, I didn't invite her. The only person I did invite was my lawyer. He was there, holding his phone, recording this tragic love story. Originally, if I failed the conquest and died during the ceremony, my lawyer would immediately leak the footage to major media outlets. I had even thought up the perfect headline: Bride cheats with ex. Groom dies from heartbreak at the altar. But to my surprise, the one who died was Willow. Chapter 11. Makoto kept kissing for a while, before finally noticing the pale, deathly hue on Willow's face. Panic surged through him. Instinctively, he shoved her away. With a sickening thud, Willow's body dropped stiffly to the ground, the back of her head slamming against the marble floor. Blood immediately pooled around her head. Then the system's cold, emotionless voice echoed again. Now she's really dead. As soon as it finished speaking, I saw Willow's soul slowly rise from her body. She looked down at her corpse in disbelief, and then at Makoto, who had gone pale and was vomiting uncontrollably. Chapter 12. Chaos followed. Someone called an ambulance. Someone else tried to resuscitate Willow. Meanwhile, I walked calmly toward her body. Standing silently beside her, Willow's spirit floated nearby. When she saw that I hadn't shed a single tear, she puffed up in frustration. "George, I'm basically dead and you're not even crying." She scrunched her nose in grievance, her voice brimming with anger. 20-something years of feelings, and that's all they meant to you. Once I wake up, our friendship is officially over. I continued pretending I couldn't see her or hear her. Expressionless, I stood by her body. Meanwhile, Makoto finally recovered from his vomiting. He flung himself next to Willow's body, gripping her cold hands and sobbing uncontrollably, the kind of cry that tears you apart from the inside. Willow saw Makoto crying for her, and her eyes turned red too. Choking up, she whispered, "Makoto must be heartbroken. What's he going to do without me?" Chapter 13. Rying. A sharp, piercing ringtone broke the silence. Makoto's hand trembled as he held the phone, his fingers shaking uncontrollably before he finally picked it up. A domineering female voice crackled faintly from the other end of the line. She said, "Weren't you the one who wanted a divorce? I'm at the civil affairs office right now." Makoto's pale face flickered with a flash of panic. He took a few hurried steps toward the door. Willow froze for a moment, then instinctively reached out to grab his hand. Of course, her hand passed right through. Makoto immediately wiped away his tears and forced a flattering smile. He lowered his voice and said, "Honey, I'm sorry. I don't want a divorce anymore. I was just messing with you when I said I wanted a divorce. Why do you take it seriously?" Willow looked at her beloved Makoto in disbelief. How could words like that come out of Makoto's mouth? No, that couldn't be. There had to be a reason. Makoto must have his reasons. Desperately, Willow tried to hold him back, but her hands just kept slipping through his body. Choking up, she cried, "Makoto, please don't go. Look at me. I'm dying." When she realized she couldn't stop him, she tried to follow him out, but an invisible barrier blocked her path. Willow's soul had been tethered to me. In the end, she could only watch as Makoto hurriedly fled the restaurant. The wedding venue, a secluded garden hotel, was far from the city. The ambulance didn't arrive until 20 minutes later. Once Willow's body was loaded onto the stretcher, her close friends quickly made up excuses, saying they had urgent matters to deal with and wouldn't be going to the hospital. Brother-in-law, if Willow turns out to be okay, please text me, or I'll be worried. The one speaking was the friend Willow considered her best friend. Seeing that I didn't respond, she awkwardly forced a smile and walked away. On the way to the hospital, Willow's soul sat silently in her seat. Maybe she hadn't expected that those who always acted so close and affectionate with her could be so heartless and fake. I closed my eyes and summoned the system in my mind. I asked, "System, why was Willow the one erased?" It responded, "This system is called, blame others more, reflect less on yourself. You've diligently tried to conquer her for 23 years and still failed to win her over. That clearly means she's the problem. Just erase her." I gritted my teeth. "Why didn't you say that earlier?" The system scoffed. "Why didn't you ask earlier?" I muttered. "Well, I guess your name really fits you." At the hospital, after a series of resuscitation attempts, the doctors pronounced Willow dead. Her soul frantically tried to return to her body. She cried, screamed, and thrashed wildly before slowly coming to terms with the fact that she was truly gone. I brought her body to the funeral home. I sent out obituary notices to a few close friends and relatives, informing them about Willow's funeral tomorrow. After preparing everything for the ceremony, I called my mother. "Mom, I want to visit Aunt Lou today. Want to come with me?" My mother sounded confused. "But it's only the 10th. Don't you usually go see Aunt Lou on the 15th of every month?" Willow froze upon hearing that. She said, "George, I never realized you visited my mom every single month." I was silent for a while before saying, "Mom, I need to tell you something. Please brace yourself. Willow is dead." Chapter 14. My mom and Aunt Lou had been best friends ever since they worked as housemaids for the Ito family. From a young age, Aunt Lou had doted on me, and my mom had treated Willow with wholehearted love. When we were little, some classmates made fun of Willow and me for not having fathers. I smiled and comforted her, saying, "Willow, even though neither of us has a dad, we have two moms." As time passed, Willow and I grew closer and closer, and both our mothers were overjoyed. In their hearts, the four of us were already a family. On the way to the nursing home, my mom kept wiping away her tears. Willow's soul sat silently in the back seat, her eyes slightly red, lost in thought. Chapter 15. Inside the nursing home room, when Aunt Lou saw me, she didn't react much. She had been battling Alzheimer's for many years now. She didn't even recognize me anymore. To avoid being a burden to Willow, she had chosen to move into the nursing home on her own. But when she saw my mom, her expression brightened. She wanted to speak but couldn't. Her body was connected to countless tubes, even her throat had one inserted. Seeing this, Willow nearly broke down. She cried out, "Mom." She rushed to the bedside, trying to touch Aunt Lou, but her hand passed right through. She turned to me, sobbing and screaming, "George, why didn't you tell me my mom was this sick?" Just then, the head doctor came in for his rounds and called me into his office. Willow's soul followed me in. The doctor said, "Mr. Wong, did you help inform Miss Lou to come visit her mother? Our nurses have tried calling her several times, but she never picks up. Mrs. Lou is now in stage 3 Alzheimer's. Ever since the pneumonia infection, her condition has worsened rapidly. She doesn't have much time left. Please try to get Miss Lou to visit her more often." I let out a helpless sigh and said, "I've told her many times already." Willow stared at me in fury and snapped, "George, you liar. When did you ever tell me?" But suddenly, she froze as if struck by lightning. She murmured, "Wait, you did tell me. George, you reminded me more than once. Why didn't I come? Why didn't I come?" I sneered internally, "Because you spent your nights drinking and your days sleeping, drowning in your own sorrow. Because, to you, no one mattered except Makoto." Before I left, I told the doctor that Willow had died in an accident. I asked him to contact me directly if anything else came up with Aunt Lou. On my way out, I paid another 100,000 yuan in advance for Aunt Lou's care. Willow stood beside me, her expression a mix of emotions. She pursed her lips and quietly said, "George, thank you." Chapter 16. The next day was the funeral. Aside from a few business associates, not many close friends or family showed up. After a brief memorial service, everyone quickly dispersed. I was about to call the staff to push Willow's body to the cremation chamber when two unexpected guests appeared before me. Makoto had actually shown up, arm in arm with his wife, Sophia, the Kim family's precious ton. Sophia was a full-figured woman. Her plus-sized pink formal dress barely clung to her waist, and every step she took pulled the tight hem taut, as if it might burst at any moment. To make matters worse, she was tottering on ridiculously high heels that clacked loudly with each step, making people wince in sympathy for her ankles. The moment she entered the morning hall, the air itself seemed to sour. Her overwhelming perfume mixed with heavy makeup scents shattered the solemn atmosphere completely. As for Makoto, holding her arm, he wore an obsequious smile on his face. Willow, who had been curled up in a corner, actually looked happy when she first saw Makoto arrive, but the moment she noticed who was beside him, her eyes nearly ignited with fury. She screamed, "Makoto, why did you bring her here? Why are you holding her hand?" Of course, Makoto couldn't hear her. He gave a sheepish smile to Sophia and said, "Sophia, the ceremony's over. Let's go." Sophia pulled her arm back, frowning. "What's the rush?" She glanced at me and said, "Mr. Wong, I'm here to inform you that tomorrow, our Kim Group will begin the acquisition of Eastern Tech." Eastern Tech was the tech company Willow and I had co-founded, focusing on photovoltaic energy. Willow held 51% of the shares, and I held 49%. At the time, I figured that with her being the protagonist in this world, starting a business would be smoother with her in the lead. That's why I gave her the majority. I kept my tone flat and replied, "Miss Kim, Eastern Tech is the result of mine and Willow's hard work. I won't sell." Sophia Kim responded forcefully, "Mr. Wong, I'm not here to ask for your opinion. I'm here to notify you." She held out her hand in front of Makoto. Makoto hesitated for a moment, then pulled a document out of his bag and placed it in Sophia's hand. Chapter 17. From the moment Willow saw that document, her face twisted with rage and despair. She couldn't hold back and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Makoto, why? You lying bastard. I gave you everything. How could you betray me like this?" She cried. "You said you were drowning in debt and couldn't divorce her. That's why I gave it to you." It wasn't until I read the contents of the document that I understood why Willow had become so hysterical. It was a contract stating that Willow had transferred all her 51% shares in Eastern Tech to Makoto as a gift. A lawyer had drafted the agreement, and it had been notarized at a legal office. I checked the date. It had been signed before Willow and I registered our marriage. That meant the shares had been her personal assets while she was still single. Even though we were married now, I had no legal right to reclaim them. Now, Makoto held the majority of shares in Eastern Tech, 51%. As long as he agreed, he could sell the company. The fury I had buried deep inside me began to boil. That brain-dead Willow really brought this on herself. Eastern Tech was my creation. I had built it from scratch. Ever since Makoto married her, she had barely contributed to the company. If I hadn't been trying to leech off her protagonist aura, I would have claimed more shares for myself long ago. Chapter 18. I finished reading the gift contract, searching desperately for any loophole. There wasn't a single one. Sophia smiled sweetly, sickeningly so. Her eyes sparkled with cunning as she said in a soft voice, "Mr. Wong, no need to keep checking. I wouldn't have come to you if we hadn't already verified its authenticity." I let out a sarcastic chuckle. "Miss Kim, you really are something. I used to think you didn't know about all the dirt between Makoto and Willow. Turns out, not only did you know, you're planning to cash in on it." Makoto's face flared with anger at my words. He growled through gritted teeth, "George, stop spouting nonsense. I've always seen Willow as a sister. She gave me the shares out of gratitude for how the Ito family took care of her back in the day." Then he quickly added, as if swearing loyalty, "The only woman I've ever loved is Sophia. That's why I transferred the shares to her. If souls could vomit blood, Willow would have been hemorrhaging on the spot. After everything she had done for him over the years, all she got in return was like a sister, and now, her entire fortune had been handed over to Sophia. If Eastern Tech weren't the product of my blood, sweat, and tears, I might have burst out laughing. "Willow, you really brought this on yourself." I turned to Makoto and said coldly, "Makoto, Willow gave you her whole heart, and you're saying this in front of her coffin. Don't you feel even a shred of guilt?" Hearing this, Willow looked at him, eyes full of desperate hope. A flicker of panic flashed across Makoto's face. He said, "George, I know you've always been jealous of me. You've loved Willow for years, but she always had eyes for me. Still, the only one I've ever truly loved is my wife." Willow lifted her hand, face twisted with disgust, and tried to slap Makoto across the face. She shouted, "Makoto, you bastard. You're the one who told me you felt sick just looking at Sophia. You said marrying her was just to protect the Ito family, that I was the one you really loved. Why? But no matter how many times she tried to hit him, her ghostly slaps disappeared into thin air. Chapter 19. Watching Willow fume and flail like that only made me feel sick. I took out the video our lawyer had recorded yesterday, of Makoto crashing the wedding, and handed it to Sophia. I said, "Miss Kim, you might want to have a look." Sophia watched the footage and responded with total indifference. "Makoto did try to divorce me before," I agreed. "But yesterday he changed his mind. Said he regretted everything and didn't want to go through with it. To prove how sorry he was, he offered this generous bride price and proposed to me again. Since he's showing such sincerity, I've decided to let the past go." I gave her a cold smile, one corner of my mouth twisting in disdain. I said, "How gracious of you, Miss Kim. With a juicy prize like Eastern Tech on the table, your husband cheating on you seems like no big deal now. Then again, who could blame him? With someone like you waiting at home, he probably couldn't stomach it." Sophia's expression finally cracked. Through clenched teeth, she hissed, "George, instead of playing games with me, maybe you should start worrying about your disabled employees. The Kim family isn't as charitable as you are. Once we take over Eastern Tech, the first thing we'll do is kick all of them out." She then turned and snapped at Makoto. "What are you standing around for? Let's go." And with that, Sophia stormed off, dragging Makoto behind her. Chapter 20. Makoto. "Oh Makoto, I had originally thought I'd let you off the hook, seeing how pathetic your life had become, but you really are scum. You're aiming for Eastern Tech now. You coveting me, I tolerated that, but you coveting my money, that, I will not." I took out my phone and called my lawyer. Willow, hearing the conversation, no longer looked hopeless. She actually seemed relieved. She said, "George, thank you. Even now, you're still willing to protect the company for me. I must have been blind before." "I'm sorry, George. Eastern Tech is my life's work. Protect it for you. What a joke." The system chimed in coldly. "Don't tell me she still thinks she's coming back to life." Chapter 21. That night, I told the system to keep Willow's soul locked outside my bedroom door. I slept soundly, but early the next morning, I was jolted awake by a sharp, persistent ringtone. It was the manager of one of our downstream factories. "Mr. Wong, you need to come here, quick. A bunch of our workers are protesting and causing trouble. We already had a tight delivery deadline on that European order. If this goes on and we miss it, we'll owe them 10 times the penalty for breach of contract." I asked for more details. Apparently, right at the start of the workday, some people had started spreading rumors that because of Willow's death, I had lost the will to continue running Eastern Tech, that I was planning to sell the company to the Kim Group. But the Kim Group was only interested in acquiring the core IC chip technology and the engineering team. As for the rest of the company and the workers at the downstream factories, they didn't want them. And once I sold the core assets, I'd shut down the rest of the business, factories, staff, everything, without a second thought. Absolutely ridiculous. Back when Willow and I started this company, we put everything we had into it to develop the solar IC controller chip. We did it so we'd never have to be at anyone's mercy again. And now you're telling me I'd just hand it over? Please. This is just the Kim family getting cocky, using dirty tricks to throw me off. Chapter 22. I decided to go to the factory and calm things down in person. By the time I arrived, dozens of workers had already gathered at the entrance. As soon as I got out of the car, the plant manager and several senior executives came to greet me. Immediately, the crowd of workers surged forward and surrounded me. Willow, standing nearby, looked panicked. What do we do, George? These workers aren't reasonable at all. Almost like she'd jinxed it, the workers began shouting angrily. Mr. Wang, are you really shutting the factory down? What about the solar equipment we installed in our homes? I paid 200,000 yuan for mine. Someone else chimed in. Yeah, we want compensation. And another shouted, give us our money back. Honestly, their anger wasn't unjustified. If this was just about losing a job, they wouldn't be this furious. But these workers had signed contracts with the factory under the residential solar installation project. They had each spent 200,000 yuan to purchase solar power systems from our company and installed them in their homes. The electricity generated was sold to the national grid, and the annual return rate was between 10% and 15%. But it wasn't a short-term return. They wouldn't break even for years. If the factory really shut down, and their equipment had issues down the line, there would be no one left to protect their rights. Yes, the project had been 100% voluntary, and the company didn't profit from the employees, but still, 200,000 yuan was a huge sum for an average factory worker. I wanted to explain, but no one would listen. They kept pushing closer, pointing fingers in my face and shouting. Some of the more agitated workers clenched their fists so tight their knuckles cracked. They were glaring at me with such fury that things were starting to spiral out of control. The manager and execs were struggling to hold them back. Willow spun around in a panic, putting herself between me and the mob, trembling as she begged them to calm down. How laughable. When she was alive, she ignored everything I sacrificed. Now that she's dead, she wants to play the noble martyr. Just as I was considering whether to make a strategic retreat, another group suddenly rushed out from inside the factory. Chapter 23. Some of them walked with limps. Some had only one functioning eye. Some had polio. They ran clumsily, staggering with every step, but still, they ran fast. They charged straight into the crowd of angry workers and shouted, "Touch Mr. Wang, and you'll answer to us." They were small in stature, but their presence was thunderous. In an instant, the mob fell silent. These were the very disabled employees Sophia had mocked, the ones I had insisted on hiring. Despite fierce opposition, Willow and I had built this company from nothing, starting with nothing but grit and perseverance. We'd experienced every hardship imaginable. Back then, we made a promise. When we had the means, we'd help others however we could. But once Eastern Tech grew large enough, and I proposed hiring more employees with disabilities, Willow strongly objected. No matter how much I explained the importance, both morally and reputationally, she refused to listen. She said, "I don't care. Don't give me your moral lecture. We're not a charity." I had no choice but to threaten to quit the company. Only then did she reluctantly agree. Later, a video of our disabled workers leaving the factory after a shift went viral online. It gave Eastern Tech a stellar reputation. When Willow died, I didn't shed a single tear, but seeing these employees now, how they ran to defend me, I almost felt like crying. Willow, open those dog eyes of yours and take a good look. That little gift contract of yours nearly cost dozens of people their livelihoods. Chapter 24. The chaos finally settled. I dropped my calm demeanor. My gaze turned sharp, my voice direct and cutting. I said, "There are rumors going around that I'll sell Eastern Tech now that Willow's dead." And I ask, why the hell would I do that? The CFO is a close friend of mine. The HR director's been my classmate for over 10 years. The tech director, I headhunted him with a hefty price. I negotiated the government subsidies. 80% of our business deals were brought in by me. So today, I'll say this without an ounce of modesty. Eastern Tech can survive without Willow, but without me, George, it's finished. Anyone who still trusts me, get back to work, right now. Anyone who doesn't, go hand in your resignation to HR. I'll tolerate this kind of nonsense just once. Next time, you're out. At that moment, a one-armed employee beside me shouted, "Boss Wang, we believe in you." Someone else echoed, "Yeah, that's right, we all believe in you. Let's get back to work, come on." With someone taking the lead, The rest of the workers started heading back inside the factory. Willow looked at me with sparkling eyes and said, "George, the way you stood your ground just now, it was really handsome." The system chimed in coldly, "Get lost, and don't even think about getting involved." Chapter 25. Just as I got back to the office, Makoto barged in, dragging along a whole legal team from the Kim group. I ordered security to throw them out, but of course, Makoto, who had clearly lost his mind, wasn't going to back down so easily. When the guards let their guard down, he swiped his card and took the executive elevator straight to the CEO's office. Naturally, I was the one sitting behind the desk. He stormed in and pointed a finger at me. "George, why won't you let us in? You think hiding will solve anything?" I lifted my eyes lazily and looked at Makoto with cold indifference. "Makoto, if you had any brains left, you'd crawl back to your sugar mama quietly. Maybe then, I'd let you live a little longer." Makoto snorted in contempt, his face full of disdain, still acting tough. "George, I really don't get how you can still look at me with that smug, all-knowing face. From the very beginning, I've crushed you under my feet." Willow's face twisted in disgust. Looking at the monstrous expression on Makoto's face, she whispered like she didn't even recognize him anymore. "Makoto, how much have you lied to me? What kind of twisted soul are you hiding beneath that polished facade?" Makoto's next words answered her question perfectly. He sneered and said, "George, you're just a pathetic loser, the son of a maid. What the hell are you pretending to be? You were born to grovel in the mud. The first time I saw you with Willow, I hated you both. I hated those fearless eyes of yours. I'm the heir of the Ito family, and yet you dared look at me without an ounce of submission. The deeper your friendship with Willow got, the more I wanted to destroy it. How else could I prove I was born better than you? It's hilarious how I pretended to be madly in love with Willow, and she actually believed it. She's so naive. A girl like her, I was just toying with her, and she fell for it. Remember when I insisted she give me 20,000 yuan? I just wanted to see how stupid she could be. When she begged her maid of a mom for money, I nearly died laughing." Willow's eyes burned with fury, her teeth chattered, and her whole body trembled uncontrollably. She glared at Makoto like she wanted to rip the flesh off his bones. She shrieked, "Bastard! You absolute bastard! I must have been blind and brain dead to fall for you." Makoto, of course, couldn't see her terrifying state. He just kept talking. "I even tricked her into thinking I'd marry her. I kept her hanging on, not because I wanted her, but because I didn't want you to have her. Even if she's trash to me, someone like you doesn't deserve her. You're really something." George, 23 years of simping by her side, and what did it get you? Your so-called goddess was dying to be my side chick. One word from me, and she dropped you like garbage to come with me. So tell me, what makes you think you can compete with me? Willow was on the verge of exploding, but in the end, she floated back to my side. Her eyes were bloodshot, filled with tears. She sobbed, "George, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I used to love you so much. How did I end up falling for a man like him? You treated me so well. I used to feel happy when you bought me grilled gluten snacks, but later on, I just wanted more and more. You loved me so deeply, and I gave everything to Makoto, again and again. I used your kindness, crushed your hopes. Honestly, I was no better than him. I don't deserve you, George." Maybe in the next life, I had no interest in her self-pity anymore. I turned to Makoto and sneered, "You ask what gives me the right? Because I'm the current CEO of Eastern Tech. Even the Kim family you leech off calls me President Wang. You might hold 51% of the company on paper, but you can only hand it over with both hands. I, on the other hand, can take it public." Chapter 26. Just as I finished speaking, Sophia barged into my office with her legal team in tow. She said with a smirk, "Going public, Mr. Wang, aren't you underestimating the Kim family a little too much?" I leaned back in my chair, staring at the uninvited guests with a cold, sharp gaze. I said, "Miss Kim, don't you think it's a bit presumptuous to march into my company with an army like this?" Sophia gave a light laugh. "This company's about to change owners, Mr. Wang. No need to be so uptight." I let out a cold laugh. "Seems like my lawyer's been slacking. Otherwise, how come you haven't received the court summons yet?" Sophia rolled her eyes, still clinging to false hope. "Mr. Wang, I already told you that gift contract is airtight." I nodded calmly. "I know. That contract is legally sound. But I'm not suing over the contract. I'm suing Makoto for criminal negligence causing my wife's death and serious bodily harm. He violated her right to life and personal safety. I'm applying to have the gift contract revoked in court." Makoto's expression changed in an instant. He stammered, "George, what the hell are you talking about?" I smirked. "Let the court decide if I'm full of crap. Now get the hell out of my office, or I'll call the police." Caught off guard, Sophia and Makoto were left reeling, and had no choice but to tuck their tails and leave. Chapter 27. The next day, the lawyer called and asked me to come sign the autopsy consent form. To determine Willow's cause of death, her body needed to be examined. The autopsy would involve removing and inspecting all major organs, including the brain and cerebellum. If Willow had still held on to any hope of resurrection before, now it was gone for good, because a body this dismantled could never be restored. Yet Willow quietly followed behind me and said, "George, if this can help save Eastern Tech, I'm willing. George, I just really wish I could hold you one more time." 1 week later, the autopsy report arrived. After a full body examination, Willow's cause of death was found to be a ruptured aortic vessel caused by long-term drinking and sleep deprivation. While the condition is nearly always fatal, there is a tiny chance of survival with immediate medical attention. Trauma to the back of her head resulted in hemorrhagic shock, which accelerated the time of death. Both conditions were independently fatal. As I read the report, Willow hovered beside me, staring at it in silence. Then she collapsed to the ground, holding her head, sobbing. "I did this to myself. I wrecked my body for Makoto, and in the end, he's the one who finished me off." With this report in hand, Makoto could at least be charged with criminal negligence causing serious injury. As the recipient of the gifted shares, he had caused serious harm to Willow's physical safety and life rights. As her legal representative, I could petition the court to void the gift contract. 1 month later, Makoto was sentenced to prison for negligent harm. Meanwhile, a massive scandal about the Kim group went viral online. Kim heiress Sophia uses her husband's affair and a gift contract to seize Eastern Tech. Groom crashes his mistress's wedding, sending the bride to her death on her wedding day. Shortly after, the Kim group's official social media account released a statement. "Miss Sophia has been relieved of all duties. Future matters will be handled by Lisa." Chapter 28. These days, Willow did nothing but beg for my forgiveness. The system told me she was about to dissipate. I went alone to the track field where we first held hands. The sun was almost gone, and the remaining glow lit the sky in brilliant shades of red. Beautiful, but heartbreakingly lonely. Willow's soul had grown faint, nearly transparent, like one gust of wind could blow her away. She sat beside me and tried to lean her head on my shoulder again. I let out a soft sigh and said, "Willow, it's time to go." She didn't seem at all surprised that I could see her. She whispered, "So you really could see me all along, George?" The system told the truth. Then, these 23 years, you stayed by my side just to conquer me. And if the conquest failed, I'd die. So no matter how terribly I treated you, you kept forgiving me, just to save my life. I said nothing. System, you really understand how to deliver a psychological gut punch. Even in death, you made her feel guilty. Willow choked out, "George, if there's a next life." Before she could finish, whoosh, her soul vanished into thin air. The system announced. I kicked her off to reincarnate. "Host, shall we begin the next mission?" I asked. "What about my mom and Eastern Tech?" It answered, "Your body in this world will be taken over by a clone of yourself. Think of it as every parallel world having a version of you." I sighed and said, "Then, let's begin the next world." Extra chapter, comedy version, please do not associate with main plot. Willow snapped. "I already heard the truth from other lost souls. System, give me back my life. Every other failed love conquest just results in the conqueror being wiped. So why, in my case, am I the one who got erased? I've contacted the Overgod. Just you wait." According to System Governance Protocol Article 7, unauthorized termination of a soul means you're facing deletion yourself. The next second, the Overgod descended from the heavens. He frowned. "Who dares accuse my son in the celestial court?" Willow was speechless. She dramatically collapsed to the floor and started crawling in the shadows like a tragic ghost. Why was I the one erased? This is injustice. The system scoffed. Because for 23 years, George gave it everything he had. In school, you were the protagonist. You had plot armor. Studying came easy to you. Meanwhile, George got up at 5 a.m. and slept at midnight. His grades still beat yours. When it came to business, George seized the opportunity in solar energy. After building a stable company, he went against all opposition to hire disabled workers and provide jobs. Someone caught that on camera. It went viral overnight. And that's how the company's name took off. Even though his mission was to conquer you, George never gave up on himself. You, on the other hand, only cared about love and drama. So tell me, why should I sacrifice someone like George for someone like you? The Overgod nodded proudly. That's my boy. The system retorted. When we're on duty, use my title.